It's 3:17 in the morning, and you're awake. Not groggy, properly awake. 40 minutes now, and you've done the maths on the alarm twice. In the morning, you'll blame the coffee, but it happens to people who never touch the stuff. In every country, at the same hour. You might have heard that we used to sleep in 2 shifts, and that you're falling back into it. It isn't that. You're awake because somebody had to be. Start with the fire because everyone does, and because it's the right place to start. There's a cave in the northern Cape of South Africa called Wonderwork. Deep inside it, in sediment about 1 million years old, there's ash from burnt plants, and there are fragments of burnt bone. Far enough in that no wind and no flood could have carried them there. Somebody had a fire going in that spot. It's the oldest solid evidence we have of people keeping one. And a fire does something very specific. It makes a small circle you can see in, and a much larger circle that the things which eat you would rather not enter. For the first time there was a stretch of the day that wasn't hunting, wasn't foraging, and wasn't sleep. Hours you couldn't work in and didn't have to spend unconscious. We have a decent idea what got done with them. The anthropologist Polly Wiesner recorded conversations among the Juhoansi and the Kalahari, in daylight and after dark, and the difference is stark. Daytime talk was about work, about who owed what to whom, and about who was annoying everybody. After dark, that dropped away almost entirely, and the talk turned into stories. People who weren't there, people who were dead, places nobody sitting around the fire had ever been. So, fire, safety, stories. That's the standard answer to what our ancestors did at night, and none of it is wrong. It's also barely the beginning. If you like this kind of video, a closer look at what our ancestors actually did, or why your own body does something strange, like and subscribe. There's a second answer, much better known than mine, and it deserves to be laid out properly before I take it apart. In the 1990s, a historian called Roger Ekirch was working on a book about night in pre-industrial Europe, and he kept tripping over the same odd phrase. First, sleep. Not my sleep, not the night. First, sleep, as though there were an obvious second one waiting behind it. So he went looking, and he found more than 500 of them. Court depositions, diaries, medical texts, prayer manuals, Chaucer, the Odyssey. He's since found thousands more. The picture that comes out of them is remarkably consistent. People went to bed a couple of hours after dark, slept 3 or 4 hours, and then woke up. Not badly, not lying there furious about it. They just woke, and they had an hour or so in the middle of the night that was completely ordinary and quite useful. They prayed. They put wood on the fire. They talked quietly to whoever was next to them. Physicians recommended that couples conceive in that hour rather than at bedtime, on the grounds that they'd be rested and would make a better job of it. Then, in 1992, Thomas Wehr tested the whole idea. He took 7 people and gave them 14 hours of darkness every night for a month, which is roughly what a winter night looks like if you take away electric light. Within a few weeks, their sleep pulled apart into 2 blocks with a gap between them, 1 to 3 hours wide. And the gap wasn't insomnia. Their cortisol was low, their prolactin was high, and Wehr described the state they were in as not unlike meditation. So the historical record and the laboratory agree, and the conclusion writes itself. 2 sleeps is our natural pattern. Electric light broke it. And the reason you're lying there at 3:17 is that something very old is trying to reassert itself in a body that no longer has room for it. I believed that for years. It's wrong. Look at where all of that evidence comes from. Ekirch's 500 references are European, with some North American. And a great many of them are winter, because a European winter night runs 14, 15, 16 hours long. Wehr's experiment didn't recreate ancestral conditions either. It recreated a London December, and only the dark part of it. Now go and look at the conditions we actually spent most of our history in. In 2015, a team led by Gandhi Yetish put activity monitors on people in 3 groups living without electricity in 3 different parts of the world. The Hadza in Tanzania, the San in Namibia, and the Tsimané in Bolivia. Different continents, different languages, no contact with each other. Thousands of nights of recorded sleep. If 2-block sleep is the human default, it turns up here. It doesn't. All 3 sleep in one piece. They go down about 3 hours after sunset. They wake near dawn, and they get somewhere between 5 and 7 hours, averaging about 6.5. No first sleep, no second sleep, no gap in the middle. And notice what else that means. 6.5 hours is less than the 8 you've been told you're failing to get. 3 societies living about as close to ancestral conditions as anyone can currently observe, and they sleep less than you do, in one unbroken block.
Ekirch isn't wrong, by the way. He documented pre-industrial Europe accurately, and the 2-sleep pattern is completely real. It just isn't human nature. It's what happens to any human being when the night is 14 hours long and there's nothing to do in the dark. Give people a 12-hour equatorial night and they sleep straight through it. First and second sleep isn't our species. It's a latitude and a season. Which leaves the real question standing, and it's a much better question than the one we started with. If everyone in the group is asleep, in one unbroken block, on open ground in Tanzania, then who is watching? Sleep is the most reckless thing an animal does. You're unconscious, you're horizontal, your reaction time is gone, and you stay that way for hours. Plenty of species have structural solutions to this. A duck on the end of a row sleeps with one eye open and half its brain awake. Dolphins shut down one hemisphere at a time. We can't do either. Our sleep goes all the way down, and it takes both halves of the brain with it. When that process comes apart and you surface before the paralysis has let go, that's sleep paralysis. There's an episode on it. The obvious answer is a watch. Somebody stays up, somebody relieves them, everyone else sleeps. But nobody has ever found that among hunter-gatherers. No rota, no shifts, no assigned watchman, no word for it. So in 2017, David Sampson's team stopped asking and measured. 33 Hadza adults, sleeping the way they always sleep, wearing monitors on their wrists. Then they took 20 days of those recordings, laid every person's night on top of everyone else's, and went looking for the moments when the entire camp was asleep at the same time. Across 20 days, there were 18 minutes. 18 minutes in total. The rest of the time, every night, at least one person was either awake or sleeping lightly enough to be brought round by a noise. The typical number of people properly awake at any given moment in the night was about 8, and nobody had arranged any of it. What Sampson found instead was that the Hadza go to sleep and wake up at different times because they are different ages. Chronotype, which is just the technical word for whether you're a morning person or a night person, shifts with age, and it does that everywhere, including in you right now. Adolescents and young adults stay up late. Older people fall asleep early and wake in the small hours. So put 40 people of every age in one camp, and their sleep slides out of phase with itself automatically. The young end of the group covers the first half of the night. The old end covers the second. Whatever's left gets covered by somebody shifting position, or getting up to relieve themselves, or half waking and going back down. The camp is guarded from dusk to dawn, and not one person in it is doing anything except sleeping when they feel like sleeping. Once you know that, the whole picture changes shape. Night wasn't a void. It wasn't a hole in the day that people filled with stories until the light came back. It was staffed, continuously, by an arrangement nobody designed and nobody could have described. It reframes the fire, too. A fire isn't only warmth and somewhere to talk. A fire has to be fed. It burns down. Something has to go on it, and somebody has to be conscious to do that. Which means that for almost as long as there have been people, there was nearly always somebody sitting up at the edge of the light, half listening to the dark past it. Not on duty, just awake at their usual hour. I doubt any of them experienced it as a job. You'd surface at 3 because 3 is when you surface. You'd look at the fire and put something on it. You'd listen for a while. The sky over you would be doing the thing the sky does, turning slowly and legibly. so that anyone who'd been paying attention for a few years could read the hour and the month straight off it. Then you'd lie back down, and an hour later somebody else's eyes would open, and none of you would ever once have discussed it. So, 317. There's something about human sleep that almost nobody finds strange enough. As you get older, it moves. It gets earlier, it gets lighter, and it breaks up. Your grandfather is asleep by 9:30 and awake at 4. That happens so reliably in every population anyone has measured that it sits in the textbooks as a normal feature of aging. And it's almost always described as a decline, the sleep system wearing out, along with the joints and the eyesight.
Look at it through a Hadza camp and it stops looking like decline and starts looking like a schedule. The young covering the front of the night, the old covering the back, the handover happening on its own, for as long as there have been groups of humans sleeping outdoors. Whatever your body is doing to you at 3 in the morning, it did to every generation before you, and back then, it was holding something up. You're not broken. You're not falling back into some medieval rhythm you lost. You've been handed the shift. There's just nobody left to hand it to.